welcome Wild Cards and Cowpokes. We've got an exciting little bit of video for you guys today. There is currently a Kickstarter going on in the Deadlands universe, and this was a little bit different. It's for a series of comic books, which is awesome. So let's get right into it. So Shane, this is the Rise of the Black Circle. Who are the Black Circle, and where does this fit in with the greater Deadlands universe?
Great question. So, many years ago, John Goff wrote a book for Deadlands, what we call Classic, the original edition, called The Black Circle. And it is a gathering of some of the Weird West's greatest practitioners of black magic. So, Mina Devlin, the Whateleys, Baron LaCroix, a whole bunch of really bad guys. And that all got kind of updated. They had a particular purpose that they were up to, several, in fact, one of which was trying to help this fella called the Cackler. And I guess we're going to talk about him very soon. But we brought the Cackler back, of course, in the Cackler graphic novel that I got to do with Chuck several years ago. And this is the continuation of this epic saga. So it's not a direct sequel to the Cackler, but it is set up by the events in the Cackler.
So that is great. So Chuck, so we've done the Cackler as a graphic novel. Tell us about the graphic history of these stories and where we're going in this Black Circle.
Wow. Well, several years ago, Visionary, my studio, hooked up with Shane and Pinnacle and had the easiest licensing deal conversation I've ever had because Shane was like, "Sure, let's do it," and I was thrilled. We did 4 one-shots that were originally published by Image. They've been collected in the recent campaign we did for Dead Man's Hand. There's now a new nice hardcover that folks can also still pre-order at that campaign page. We had some top talent. We had folks like Ron Mars and Bart Sears and just Jimmy Palmiotti, Justin Gray, Lee Moder, just an all-star cast of writers and creators. And I thought those books came out great. We then did Raven, which is a 5-issue series that we kickstarted directly. And we're going to be launching a new campaign to do a hardcover collection of that in September. And then we did the Cackler, which Shane wrote and Bart Sears drew. And I think Shane will agree, Bart knocked it out of the ballpark, took Shane's great script with all the action and all the horror elements and just the nonstop fun and cranked it up to 10.
He did.
Beautiful art on it. And we're making those available through the campaigns that people can do as add-ons, either a hardcover or soft cover, and we'll keep that going as long as we can. But then we circled back and we set up this deal with Outlands, and now we're doing multiple Pinnacle projects. We started with the Dead Man's Hand re-release. We're right now kickstarting issue 1 and 2 of Rise of the Black Circle. We're doing the floppies as sort of for the comic fans, the folks that love to collect comics, because the floppies are limited edition collectible items. They'll never be in print in the mass market. So this is your chance to get those and have those exclusives. And it's the hardcovers that Outland then pushes into the mainstream market. So the next campaign for Rise of the Black Circle will include issue 3 and the hardcover. So folks can either get the whole collection of floppies or go straight to the hardcover. And Shane knocked it out of the ballpark again with the story. It was just great story. We lined up Aaron Palsmere to do the art, do the line art, and Simon Goh to do the colors. And I think it's come together really nice.
Yeah, let's take a look at the page because this is off to a great start. And so again, limited edition. So this is the interesting thing to like those of us. I don't have the comics gravitas that you guys have. I'm learning though because it is a great format. So in comics, folks, the floppies are actually really highly collectible. Like those are the ones you want to keep in pristine and the kind of collector's items. And then the hardbacks come so we can all actually enjoy the comics and leave them on the shelf and maybe even let guests touch them and read them. Right? So you don't let friends have your floppies. You let friends have the hardback. And I love this preview image. So Shane, tell us who are the 4 characters who are kicking off our big header image here? Are they heroes? Are they villains? Who are we looking at?
These are our heroes, of course, and longtime Deadlands fans will recognize Velvet Van Helter at the top, our hex-slinging huckster. Below him on his right is Bad Luck Betty McGrew, who is a little bit of Calamity Jane and a little bit of geez, I don't know, just a really tough Buffalo gal, right? And on Velvet's left is Lacy O'Malley, who is absolutely not modeled after Carl Kolchak from Night Stalker. Not even a little bit.
I love the hints in the face. I mean, you can see it. I mean, it's it's there for those who know. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. I was a big Night Stalker fan, right? And Darren McGavin was just fantastic. And when I first started writing the character, I wanted him to be that nosy reporter who just would not stop. And that blossomed into this whole thing with the Tombstone Epitaph. And here we have him today. He's become, his own character, but certainly that's where he springs from. And in the middle of that is Ronan Lynch, who died in our very first dime novel where these characters first appeared. So these are our dime novel heroes that we did way back in 1996, given new life by Chuck and his team. And what's really cool is, the Cackler featured Hank Ketchum and Morgan Lash and Lacy O'Malley, and characters like Suitcase Lee and Nevada Smith. This is a different group, our dime novel heroes who are coming who are getting dragged into this whole Rise of the Black Circle thing again. And you may just see those two groups coming together as the plot thickens.
Ooh, that's good stuff. It's good stuff. And we're really so anyone who's a Deadlands fan on the RPG side knows that it's looming, it's in the distance, it's in the future. Is our Deadlands Dark Ages, and this actually sets up some of that kind of conflict. I don't want to spoil the Cackler for those of you who haven't read it. Maybe Shane will. He's got permission because he wrote it. John Goff,
well, let's give a spoiler warning right now. If you don't want to know who the Cackler is and the story behind it, you're going to want to tune out. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I will put my hands up when it's time to come back. Boy, that was probably confusing. Because I counted down and then I did that. Anyway.
We got you covered.
Right.
We'll take away the banner when the spoilers are done.
Excellent. Okay, so many, many years ago, probably about 1995, when we were putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboards to create the original Deadlands, one of our goals was to get an animated show done at HBO. Now, being 20-something years old and being very naive, we thought that was doable. And it was at a time when Spawn had just debuted, so adult animated shows were something that a lot of people were talking about, not social media because that didn't exist yet. But we thought that was a really good route for us to go. So we created the dime novel characters that we thought would be the main stars of that show, and the big plot that I wanted to do for the first season's arc was the introduction of the Cackler. And you would find out he is this ancient undead being who is trying to find a young girl named Rachel, and it's a really specific quest to find her. And then eventually, and here's where the spoiler comes in, you find out that Rachel is a descendant of Morgan Le Fay, and the Cackler is Mordred, who is long undead, right? So it played into this Arthurian mythos. It kind of gave us a new angle to the Weird West that our heroes would be dragged into. We did not have the idea for Deadlands Dark Ages at that time, but much later on, as John Goff got involved and Simon Lucas and other people, we thought, we're bringing Morgana into the Weird West. And here's another spoiler. In the Cackler, the bad guys win. We do that a lot. And and Morgana comes back in the body of this young girl, Rachel. So we thought, man, it would be really cool to explore Dark Ages too. So what we've hinted at, and you'll see very soon, Morgana is actually kind of trapped in time. She's fluttering back and forth between the Weird West and Dark Ages. And that's the first thing the characters in Dark Ages are going to have to deal with. It's not the only thing, but it's one of the first things.
That's fantastic. So fantastic. So for this collector's edition, Chuck, let's get into some of the art because it is just gorgeous. And let me reshare that.
Sure.
Of course, it goes away. There we go. So this is in the current updates. If people check out Update 3 on the new Kickstarter, and we'll pop a link in the description of this video so you can get right to it. Tell us about our artists and kind of what we're looking at on these behind the production scene stuff.
Okay, well, Aaron Palsmere is what we call our line artist. He's doing both the pencils and the inks. He does layouts to submit for review, so everyone is on board, then does the pencils, and then finishes off with the full inked artwork. When Shane submitted the original story, we actually had some initial art from a different artist, and I don't know that artist's name. Shane, you might want to mention him, which was great. But because we were expanding to a series, we wanted to start with an artist that could carry through and finish, and the other artist wasn't going to be able to do that. So we reached out to Aaron because the first thing that struck me about the script was just the sort of high octane level action. I mean, we start right in it. It just gets bigger from there, and stuff blowing up and undead and people being shot and everything else. So we wanted someone that could really capture that kind of energy and that dynamic motion and that's that almost like a old Western serial type feel to it. It's so we reached out to Aaron. He was enthused, very excited to do something with Deadlands, and when he started turning in the initial art, I think we all looked at it and said, "Yeah, that's pretty perfect." And he's got a very clean style. He's not doing photorealism, but he's doing something that really captures the essence of the characters and sets a tone and mood for the different scenes. And I think he's been doing great work. And we don't have any color samples on this, but we do. The first issue is fully finished. This is some of the early preview pages from issue 2. Simon Go is doing the colors, and his color palette and his color work has been phenomenal as well. He's
actually. Can I jump in here real quick, Chuck? Scroll back up, Chris. This might be of interest to some folks. So if you look go back down to Ronan looking at the bottle there.
Okay.
Let's talk about his nose. So one of the things we do in Deadlands a lot. The Harrowed are heroes who come back from the dead, right? And
they have great abs and no shirts.
Great abs and no shirts. Right. Well, there's a reason for that in the story.
Exposure.
Right. So, the original premise of Deadlands, which I've told 1,000 times, based on this painting that I saw Brom do. I had this long drive back from Gen Con one year, and the image that kept coming up in my mind was, this hand bursting up out of the grave at Boot Hill. And I kept asking myself the question, what was so important that this person came back from heaven or hell from, right? So that got into the whole, the Harrowed being, these guys and gals who come back from the dead. And you're animated by a Manitou or a demon inside you that you wrestle with for control. And that's what Ronan here that we see looking at the bottle of tequila has to wrestle with constantly. But one of the interesting things is we need that character to be able to interact with the party and walk into town and not everybody go, oh my God, you're a zombie. Right, so you're really more like a gaunt, pale vampire in the actual narrative game fiction. But we also like to let the artists run loose a little bit and do cool stuff. So the art is a little more exaggerated than the world actually is. And we ran into that here where the artist drew this picture of Ronan with the undead nose, right? Because it's rotted off. And, I looked at it. I'm not very good at paying a lot of attention to the art detail, as Chuck will attest. Sometimes we have to catch things later on, just a lot on the plate, and that's one of the things I miss. And I look at this image and I go, oh my God, that's great. Looks like Ronan Lynch, right? But then we start realizing, he looks actually like a zombie. We need to stay away from that. So if you scroll down, we did a little facial surgery and he gets his nose back. So in this particular part of the tale, he actually has been starved for a while. Undead have to eat, or Harrowed have to eat raw meat to replenish their body since they can't grow stuff back on their own. So that's actually part of the story and why he's particularly gaunt and emaciated in this one. But we did do the nose.
Yes.
I do love the symbolism though of looking at that decidedly not tequila worm in that tequila. I mean, it's a little more spiky, which is the parallel between the demon inside you're wrestling with, and then the tequila has the worm inside, and that's
right.
Love it.
You nailed it.
So good.
And I'm sorry, Chuck, I interrupted you about the artist there.
No, that was a good point. Yeah, you had the most awesome conversation of doing comics. So yeah, we talked about Ronan's appearance, and we even worked in a patch Shane was talking about to have him look a little more zombified, and even played that up in a confrontation between him and Betty, which you'll see when you read it. So it's it's fun. It's an ongoing process, but I think overall it's been very smooth. I think everyone's had a lot of synergy with each thing, and when we have had to go back and make some revisions have been very minor. So I think the team is really gelling well and working well together.
So, Chuck, tell me about the medium of telling stories in the Old West in just a visual format. Because, I mean, like on the RPG side, it's also very different than like the quintessential movie, right? The movie, the Western movie is kind of the American story, the quintessential American story. But we as RPGers, it's a very different format for us because it's live and we're involved. How is it telling the Western in comics? What do you think is different and unique about that medium?
Well, I think, as Shane was mentioning, with comics especially, you've got a static visual medium. So you really want to take opportunities to milk that static visual for everything it's worth in terms of your settings, in terms of your characters. Comics aren't about capturing how the real world looks. Comics are more about communicating emotion, tension, drama, excitement, all through artwork. So it's more about capturing sort of that ephemeral stuff that we want the readers to feel and evoke with the story that we're telling. So, Westerns, it's awesome, especially for Deadlands and horror Westerns, because, we romanticize the Old West a lot, but it's also a lot of empty landscapes and barren desert type territory and towns that are struggling to stay alive, and people, who are lucky to make it into their late 30s and 40s because of all the illness and everyone's
in Deadlands years, I'd be dead.
Yeah, and then you crank that up with something like Deadlands, where you've got all these creatures that are roaming and all these looming threats and magic and everything else. It is an ideal environment to tell a kind of darker horror story, and put things on edge, because these folks, they're dealing with all. You talk about all the sort of post-apocalyptic type fiction, which is so popular, but at least a lot of those folks, the Walking Dead folks, they still have guns. They have more advanced tech. They have vehicles. They can do all this stuff. Old West, they didn't have any of that. If your horse died in the desert, you're stuck. So to me, it amps up and ramps up all the threat level and just makes it more inviting and engrossing, I think, for the reader. And that's what I think we're trying to do with the Deadlands series. And each of, we're telling different types of stories, and there's lots of different types of stories we can tell. But I think all of them had that sort of gritty, on the edge of survival, desperate feel to it, whether it be all out action or just the overwhelming mood of it.
Yeah, I think even like kind of this connecting leitmotif through all those is like the search for a frontier, right? I mean, even if it's the unknown, and even if it's post-apocalyptic, it's the only way to get a new frontier now that we've discovered so much of what we are on this planet, right? There are condos in Alaska, so it's like, well, where is the next frontier really? You kind of end civilization and find new frontiers. But on that, and it's got a similar topic for Shane. In the preview, we saw some of the scripts that you wrote on comics. How is writing for a comic in Deadlands different than writing for an RPG?
Well, you have a whole lot less words to start with. In RPGs, we have a lot of pages to fill, and you can just turn your fingers and your mind loose and write ad infinitum, literally 80 to 100,000 words. The comics, you really want to let the artwork tell most of the story. So I try my best to not bloviate the text, right, and make sure that the artist gets the spotlight. But there's still a story to tell. There's cool lines to speak. There is explanation to be given via the show don't tell mandate that we really strive to live through. I think I rely a lot on asking the artist to exchange looks between characters. So what you just showed a second ago. There's a scene where Bad Luck Betty confronts Ronan about something. And I think there's text in those boxes to come, but there is. But most of it is communicated by the way they're looking at each other, right? Something happened in Abilene that we're going to explore down the road a bit, that Betty holds against Ronan in a big way. And I think a picture says 1,000 words, right? So that's kind of my mandate. I really like to try to work the spaghetti in too, and with an artist like we have here, it works really well. You get the lean figures and the sweeping dusters and the low hats over the eyes. I mean, he just nails it. He understands the medium. And it's very easy for me to create when you have a partner like that. And Chuck oversees it all to make sure that, we gel together, and that I'm still fairly novice at writing comics. I mean, I can tell Deadlands stories till the cows come home, or the Los Diablos come home. But, making sure it all fits in the format and the way that it needs to be communicated to the artist. Chuck is really good at overseeing that stuff, and he's a massive help.
Yeah, from the cows come home. Blood Drive now available at a friendly local game store near you. Got to get the pitch in, right? So for for last question, I think for both of you, this is just the beginning, right? I mean, Deadlands has got a great multi-decade, 25+ year history, but this is kind of just the beginning of this awesome partnership on bringing it to the comics world. So for all the people who are the amazing folks who backed the Cackler and then backed the first issue, this is where is this in kind of the arc of the stories we want to tell, and then and kind of the whole big project. So, let us know. We're early on the train yet, right?
Yes, I'll let Shane tackle that first with his thoughts and ideas for the plan.
Yeah. So, we started with Chuck. I don't know what year that was.
It was a little while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. And we started with those Image comics, as we mentioned, and that was kind of an anthology to just kind of introduce people to, the various concepts of the Weird West, right? Once we got to Raven and the Cackler, it was really more about telling, the big backstory of Deadlands. And in the RPG right now, we're focused very heavily on local horror. So, we just did in Deadlands Reloaded the 4 servitor plot point campaigns where you fight Raven, Grim, Hellstrom, and Stone. And we wanted to back away from, saving the world constantly to, now let's deal with the old haunted Peterson place in town, right? And that weird windy cave at the end of the holler. Let's tackle those things and kind of, bring it back down and make it a bit more personal. But we still have this huge story to tell, and the comics are, a great way for us to do so, especially featuring our dime novel characters. And the Cackler set things in motion. Rise of the Black Circle, spoiler alert, the Black Circle's coming back, and all of the shenanigans that we've had in mind for quite a few years that we want to tell are going to come out in these stories, and the seeds are in these first few issues that Chuck and Jeremy at Outland are working on right now. So I don't know if it's actually the start of the train, as you said. It's actually the next stop. Since we worked with Chuck so long ago on these, our business models went different directions at the time, but creatively we just had a great time with Chuck. So I'm so thrilled that not only do we get to work with Outland, who has this great catalog and all these amazing other books and products in the works, and, we got so excited we actually invested in Outland. But as importantly, we had Chuck there with him to help shepherd our particular properties and make sure that creatively, me and the guys who are working on the Dark Ages comic and other surprises in the future are all on the same page. And, it'll have a distinctive feel to it that if you like one, I think you'll like them all.
Yeah. So Chuck, tell us what is currently available. For folks who haven't got on, the Cackler and that stuff. There's, we've already had some recent really great Kickstarters. And then what's in this campaign? What is the exclusive, and then what's upcoming in the near horizon?
Well, for what's available, the easiest way, to be honest, and to pitch the campaign, go to the campaign. We have a tier where you can get the entire Deadlands Comics collection in digital, or the entire Deadlands Comics library in print. So anyone that wants to jump on board and take a deep dive, it's all right there. If you're missing certain items, you can also do add-ons. We always have all the books up as add-ons for the campaigns, so it's very easy to access that. But as I mentioned, Dead Man's Hand was the first re-release in hardcover, and that covers the first 4 one-shots. Raven is going to be debuting on Kickstarter in September, and that will be the re-release of that series. The Cackler is available through each of the campaigns or direct order from Pinnacle, so you can pick those up. And then, Rise of the Black Circles right now. The next new series we have, my personal favorite, we're doing Billy the Kid in Deadlands. We did a backup story in the initial one-shots and introduced him. Heard a lot of positive feedback about that, so we rebooted that story and are expanding it. So we'll be doing a hardcover collection for that. And then Dark Ages in January is actually going to be linked with the debut of the game. That's going to be a big thing, very big thing. Beautiful book, by the way. I'm not going to say much about what's happening in the book, but yeah, it definitely brings in everything that Shane was talking about earlier. And we've got an amazing artist, Daniel Geet, who is doing the art. Is just stunning work. So I'm very excited about that. And Jeremy Moeller, who's the publisher at Outland, great guy, great to work with. He's very excited. We're all excited. We're also doing non-Deadlands books. I don't know if we want to mention those.
Absolutely, you got time.
Sure.
Yeah, 2023, we've already got 2 major projects for other Pinnacle properties in process. East Texas University had a game supplement called Chickens in the Mist. The actual creators of the game are doing a 3-issue comic series drawn by Ariel Medell. We've already got that in process. They're loving the art. Ariel is an amazing artist. And we're also doing a graphic novel with Holler. Tim Early, the creator for that, is doing the art, and Francesco, who did the art for the game, is doing the comic art because he's done image. Yes, Chris, breathe.
Oh my God, this wasn't in the show notes. This wasn't in the show notes.
Yes, Holler. Well, this is the first announcement. This is the first mention of any of that outside the small circle, not the black circle, but the small circle, planning all this fun stuff. So, I've been very busy with Pinnacle stuff, and we also have a Deadlands prose anthology that will debut on Kickstarter in November, headed up by New York Times bestselling author Jonathan Mayberry. And
hell of a guy.
Yes. And he brought together an ace list of writers and authors who are doing short stories in it. Shane's contributing. We've got other folks like Jeff Marriott and just great folks that we worked with before, Shauna McGuire. So we're going to play that up in November.
Wow.
Let me throw out a tidbit for fans. So one of the great things, one of the bad things about a small company is we can't put out as much as Paizo or Hasbro or whatever, right? One of the great things about a small company, though, is it is all tied together. It's really tight, right? So the short story that I did for the Jonathan Mayberry collection syncs right in with the Rise of the Black Circle comic. You will note, like, oh, this character was there when this happened, that kind of stuff, right? And everything we do has that kind of oversight. It's a small team that does it, so that's pretty cool. Now let me brag on Chuck for a second. So Chuck has been trying to sell me on Billy the Kid, for, I don't know, 10 years. And the story of Billy the Kid is great, right? I'm a Western guy. I know the history. But I just can't get past that picture of Billy the Kid. He looks like such a doofus. Now, the one unearthed photo they found more recently where he's playing croquet with some people is a little more doable, but he just looks so dumb. It's just hard for me to get behind. I'm a wits hero guy, right? That's the kind of the heroes I like. So Chuck has been pitching, and I've been kind of lukewarm. Yeah, well, okay. I mean, we need some more Billy the Kid stuff in Deadlands, but I don't know. But then he comes up with this story, and I read the story. And not only is the story great, not only is there fantastic action, not only does it open up some really cool new concepts for the RPG, but it's the kind of story that I just love. The hero goes through some, and I don't want to spoil it because I really want people to read it and get it. He goes through very clever twists that he's set up, right? And you have to be pretty smart yourself to set things up like Chuck did in the story. So kudos to you there, Chuck, and I just love it. It's fantastic. So I'm on board.
Oh,
cool.
The synergy is fantastic. I mean, I've got to cut you off here, guys, because I can't handle any more spoilers on all the stuff coming up. So yeah, save your dollars and cents. No, don't save them. Spend them now because you can only get the soft cover floppies of the current Black Circle with this Kickstarter, and there will be a third issue. So this is part of an ongoing. So that the story will wrap up, and there will be a hardcover available in the future. But get the floppies now because that's where it's at. You got to be a collector. You guys have convinced me. I'm on board now. But yeah, I'm super excited. The fact that we're going to get so much more Deadlands content, and we're not stopping the big picture stuff just because on the RPG side we're going local, and then oh wow, seeing all the other stories that you guys are doing that are going to come to comics, love it. I mean, we are so proud of Holler and that Tim Orley's work and Tracy on that, and to see that come in with that Francesco art, I can't believe you got Francesco to do a comic because oh my god, that dude's busy and he's amazing. And,
big image artist.
Wow. So, yes. Well, congratulations on roping in the great art. And, of course, I mean, not to kiss up to the boss with the great writing. And, we all love Deadlands. That's why we're here. So there's no mystery there. But we will get you guys back to work because that's a lot coming up between now and Christmas that we really need to save up for. So we'll let you both get back to work. But thank you so much for joining us, guys. And we'll do more of these because I love the spoilers. And they don't even tell me this kind of stuff, guys. So again, the Kickstarter, it's on the Outrider Kickstarter. We'll put a link in for everybody. Outrider is the really clever combination of Deadlands and Outland. And, it's the synergy is perfect. And so thanks, Chuck, and thanks, Shane. I'm excited. And guys, get this story while you can because the floppies are only available in the Kickstarter, and there's more. It's a good investment. We're not doing ones and dones. We're doing at least 3 on this, and then there's a whole more story to tell. So thanks, guys, and we'll do this again on the next go round. Cheers, buddy.
Thanks.
Adios.